Hey YouTube. Alright, so in today's video I wanted to discuss kind of what I did on back when I got on Oahu for the second round. So for those that are following my little journey here, I started my trip in Maui and then I went to Oahu for about a week and a half, and then I went to the big island of Hawaii for a couple of days, and then I came back to Oahu to finish out my Hawaii trip before I went to Japan. So this video will kind of be my time on Oahu part 2, what I did with my dad for the last few days that we were in the island, on the island for, before my dad went back to Orange County in California, and I flew on to Japan. And so that's kind of really where we parted ways, and my dad finished his little 3-week vacation and I was just starting mine. So we can start, I guess, on Oahu. When we flew back from the big island and we landed on Oahu, we had dinner and then with my aunt, and then we went out to do some more kind of exploration. So for those that remember, my dad grew up on Oahu and he kind of lived on the Kailua side of the island, so more of like the North Shore area, and kind of where Buzz's Steakhouse is, and that boat ramp, and there's like a bird's island. It's like a little flat island, and near the Mokulua Islands. So over there in that area is kind of where my dad was raised. And, you know, it was kind of cool. We really wanted to go back over there and kind of go to the North Shore and see what everything was like over there, what's changed. They were doing a lot of construction on some of the roads, so my aunt just mentioned that it was really kind of a pain to get on that side of the island. Everyone was redoing all the roads over there, so but it wasn't that big of a deal. So we started driving and we ended up doing kind of a route around the entire island, and we went over to the North Shore. We saw all the waves. My dad pointed out a couple of famous surfers where they used to live or they currently live, and these nice big houses right on the beach. Pretty cool. The waves on the North Shore are a lot larger, which is why it's known for surfing, than, for example, you know, over where Honolulu is. And so over there is, you know, very, very nice. You can see during the sunset, it's all kind of like that, something special about the beaches. It's more of like a golden sand than I would say a white sand beach. It's just really, really, really nice. Probably my favorite, more beautiful part of the island is on that North Shore. And you know, we saw some people doing like a surf competition over there. So way out in there, you could see these photographers with these cameras and these lenses that are like super, super, super long, so they can take good shots or good video of the surfers way out in the ocean. And you know, we watched that for a little while. You know, dipped our toes in the sand and just kind of hung out. We saw a bunch of chickens and whatnot by the park, by the beach. So that's pretty typical, though. You go anywhere on Oahu or the Hawaii, anywhere these days, you're going to see a bunch of chickens. It's basically the national bird now. And, you know, we drove there. We did go up to this other place that my dad said that he used to go as a kid. So this wasn't on my list of things to do. This is just somewhere my dad wanted to show me. And apparently it was a Hawaiian burial site, similar to the Aiea Loop, but it was a lot more on the outskirts. So we drove up this hill and these roads that kind of looked abandoned, and we eventually got to this little park, and we saw like one homeless guy's stuff kind of on the trail, and there was nothing else. It was a parking lot, and then there was this like really old black, you know, lava rock style sacrificial pit / burial ground, I guess, for the Hawaiians. And it was pretty cool to see. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was just kind of all these black squares on the ground, and it's perimeters, if you will, perimeters of lava rock. But because I had seen that kind of what it looked like in its all its greatness at the Bishop Museum, I was able to see kind of what it really was about. So like I could see in my imagination, even though it was just a perimeter of black lava rock now, I could see kind of where they did the sacrificing and to the gods and all that. So that was kind of cool. And then we took a different turn, and even though we've been tourists for the last 3 weeks, when you've got your own car and you've got your own place to stay, you know, lodging from my aunt's house and my uncle's house, you don't really feel like a tourist. this was very touristy. We went to the kind of like the Turtle Bay resort area, and we parked and we had some margaritas. We took some pictures on the sofa bed things out there by the beach, and just saw the waves crashing on the rocks and got the view basically of the Turtle Bay resort without having to pay the crazy amounts of money it is to go there. So we just kind of had some food, some drinks. We had some Mai Tais at their bar there by the pool, and just kind of acted like real tourists for a day. And when that was done, we drove back home, and that was basically the first day back, just around the North Shore to see what it was like. And we also, of course, we stopped by Kailua, but we didn't go to Buzz's Steakhouse, or I think that's what it's called, Buzz's. I think that's what it's called. No, it wasn't. It's not. Yeah, Buzz's. I'm thinking of Duke's and Buzz's. Buzz's Steakhouse is in Kailua. Duke's is on Waikiki. So Buzz's Steakhouse is where my dad loves his Mai Tais. He thinks are the best Mai Tais ever. And so, but we didn't stop there this trip. We had been there before, so no big deal. And we just kind of drove by. We saw where my dad used to live and the little private beach next to it and everything. We could see the Mokaluas. A few trips ago, back when I was a little bit younger and my dad was a little bit healthier, we did do a kayaking out to the Mokaluas, and that was a cool experience. We were really sore the next day, but that's not what we did this trip. That was a past trip. So I had been out there before. I knew what to expect. And then we kind of drove back home, and the next day my dad hurt his toe doing something. I think it was from hiking, and so he decided to sit this one out. I wanted to do the rail car trail. So basically I drove out and I parked, and there's this huge what used to be like a rail car. So it's like a train railroad track basically, except it was just goes right up the mountain and then right back down. There's not a whole lot to it. And so it's abandoned now in terms of there's no more rail car that goes up there, but it's really popular hike. So people will hike up the actual steps of the old train station, or the old train tracks, right? The rail car tracks. And so you can just walk up them. And so when I got there, it didn't look that daunting. It was just up. You could literally see the end of it, or the top of it, from where you're standing at the start. And it proved to be pretty challenging. It was fun though, and it was really nice views. I was able to get up to about maybe 75% of the way there, and then there's like a space in the rock, or in the cliff or whatever, where it's still track, but it's like a 20-foot drop underneath. So you're basically just, okay, very carefully you're stepping. You one step, you fall down there, and it's over for you. You could also, there was this place where you could go around and kind of climb up the hillside instead of going through those tracks if you were super afraid of heights. But I chose to walk it, and it was exhilarating, pretty cool. Got my blood flowing. And then we made it to the top, and at the very, very top were some, kind of abandoned pillboxes. You could go around the pillbox and you could kind of see the other side of the mountain. And that's kind of where the golf courses are, and over where that, if you remember in my first video, there was a lighthouse trail that we did. You could kind of see where that lighthouse trail was on the other mountain, passing that. You couldn't get to it, but you could see kind of where that was. And really beautiful. And then at the very end, like right as I was about to leave and start heading back down, it starts drizzling and became a little bit slippery. So I waited a little bit while I was up there, and then ended up making my way back down. So that was basically it. We had a few more dinners, a few more lunches, went to go see some family, and my cousin Jack just had a kid with his wife, and so his name was Jack too. Or, I'm sorry, my cousin Bobby had a kid named Jack, and so we were just kind of introducing ourselves to him and playing around with him a little bit more, and just kind of chilled at my Aunt Jennifer's house for the majority of the rest of the trip until it was my time to leave. And then on the last day, we had some Mexican food for dinner, and I was off to Japan. My flight left super early in the morning. I had to get to the airport at like, I think 7 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning. And I will save my airport trip for the beginning of Japan, but going to Tokyo. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to leave my Oahu trip. There wasn't a whole lot left to tell from part one, so that's basically it. I went around the North Shore, we went to Turtle Bay, we explored some abandoned kind of burial grounds and sacrificial pits, and then I did some hikes. That rail car was really cool. It was memorable. Took a lot of pictures and video there, and that's the one that I remember the most in terms of kind of the coolest hike that I did on Oahu. All right, so that's my trip, guys. My next video will basically be my flight to Japan, landing in Narita, and then getting into Tokyo. And so that'll be my first of my vlogs, or my reminiscing vlogs of Japan. I did 11 different cities in Japan in a few weeks, like 3.5 weeks. So I was all over the place. The first video will be my trip in Tokyo. Met some cool people. All right, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.